Hi everyone, welcome back to Programming Fields. I'm Umesh Rana, and in this video, we are going to take our Laravel 12 Livewire Starter Kit project to the next level by implementing a full roles and permissions system using Laravel Spatie package. And by the end of this video, you will have a robust system where you can manage modules, permissions, roles, and users all with access control. And the best part, we are going to leverage our reusable form and table components which we have already created in our Livewire Starter Kit series. This will help in building everything fast and clean. Now many of you have requested for this tutorial because we already made a full roles and permission tutorial in our React Starter Kit series, and you all showed a lot of love for that video. Since many of you wanted to see the same functionality with Livewire Starter Kit as well. That's why here it is. So whether you want to restrict certain users, assign roles, or control what users can see and do, this video will cover it all step by step. And before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming Livewire tutorial series. Now before we jump into coding, let's quickly understand why we need roles and permission system. And firstly, let's understand these terms, what is roles and permissions. Okay, so I will jump to the editor first. And firstly, we will understand what is roles. So this roles is a group of permission. Okay, so this will be a group of permissions and there can be multiple roles. Example, super admin, admin, we can have editor or any other users. Okay. Now what about permissions? So the permission will be like an action that user can perform. For example, user wants to create a new user. So that is a kind of permission. Okay. So for example, this will be a type of actions which can be performed by an user. Okay. And in which we can have multiple actions like create, user, update, user, delete, user, etc. And one more term, we will have modules in our application. So the modules will be like functional areas. For example, we will have some functional areas in which we will have modules like users, permissions, we can have like gallery management module, roles management. So these will be like modules, right? These are the functionalities which can have in any of the applications. So using the roles and permissions, we will manage these modules accessibility. Now in our application, the flow works like this. The role will be assigned to an user. So let's say these are the roles and these will be assigned to user. Okay. Now about this permission, the permission will be given to the role instead of the user, because the role will have a group of permissions. So let's say if you want to assign multiple permission to any user, that will have more complication. So instead of assigning the permission to individual users, the permissions will be assigned to a role, and inside a role, there will be a group of permissions and the role will belong to user. So every user will have some role like super admin, admin, editor or something. Now while accessing the functionality of the application, like any modules, we will directly check the permission for that role. If that logged in user has that specific permission based on that role, then we will allow that module to be accessed. Okay. So the flow is very simple. A role will be assigned to an user and this role will have the group of permissions. Then the permission will control what the user can do in each module, which will act like an action. Okay. And this system is extremely flexible, and with Laravel's Spatie package, it becomes easy to manage roles and permissions in Laravel. Now for implementing this roles and permissions, I will be using the existing project setup that I have created for creating and managing reusable table and form components in Livewire Starter Kit. If you have followed this series, you will have the same setup. If not, you can create a fresh Laravel application here. Now this project is already running, so I will jump to the browser. And here, this is the application. Here we have this Livewire Starter Kit in which we created the users module. This is the reusable table component. Also, we created a reusable form component. So here, if we'll try clicking on add user, we have this reusable model form, okay, in which we have these form fields which are coming dynamically again with form validations, file upload and preview. The same form will be opened in the view and edit mode. So if we'll click on view, the same form is opened for populating the user data in the view mode. Also, if we'll click on edit, again the same form has been opened here in the model, and this has populated this user data. And by using these two reusable components like table and form, we will create this roles and permissions based functionalities. So at the very first step, we will have to install Laravel Spatie package. So I will jump to the official documentation of Laravel Spatie. So I will search for Laravel Spatie. Here we have this very first. Let's open this. Here we have this latest version as version 6. And here we have a quick introduction about this package. This package allows you to manage user permissions and roles in a database. Now let's quickly jump to this installation. Here we have this installation in Laravel. Let's click on this. And for installing this, we have this prerequisite. Now before installing this package, let's quickly go through this prerequisites. Here this has support of Laravel 5.8 to Laravel 12, which is latest version. Also, we have this user model contract or interface, because for using this, we will have to use this trait has roles, all right, and that will be added in the user model itself. Further, we have this must not have a role, property or relation method, because this Spatie provides inbuilt relation of role or role something that may conflict with this, okay? So you should not have this table like role or roles in your database. Also, it should not have any relation with the same name. This is the config. This will publish one config file as permissions.php. So you should not have this permission already in your config file. There is database schema limitations. So you can go through these all prerequisites before installing this in Laravel. All right. Now let's quickly jump to this installation step. Here we have this command. I will quickly copy this command. I will jump to the terminal. And here I will paste that command. Further, let's hit enter. And this is installing this Laravel Spatie package. And yes, the package has been installed successfully. Now if we'll jump to the code editor, and if we'll check out in the composer.json file, here we have this Spatie permission package. Now let's stay ahead to the documentation again. Now after installing this package, we will have to publish the migration and config file using this command. So when you will execute this command in the terminal, this will perform two actions. Firstly, it will publish the migrations, and further it will publish this configuration file. Let's copy and execute it in the terminal. And yes, this has published the permissions.php configuration file, and further this has added migrations. Now if we'll check out these two configurations and migration files. So firstly, we'll jump to the config. Here we have this permission.php file in which we have this array as models. So Laravel Spatie will use two models inbuilt, which will be permission and role. Now related to these models, these two models will be associated with these two separate tables. So I will come to the migration part later. Firstly, let's continue with this permission configuration. If you want to create and manage custom model, you can specify that here, okay? Because the inbuilt model will have some fixed set of fillable property based on the migrations. But in case if you want to customize the field in the migration, then accordingly you will have to update the fillable property. So in that case, you will have to create a custom model that will extend this inbuilt permission model from a Spatie package, and same for the roles. So in this video, we are going to customize that because we will be adding few additional columns in existing tables like permissions and roles. Now let's go ahead with this next array. Next, we have this table names array in which we have the following tables, like for managing the roles, we have roles table. For permissions, we have the permissions table. For model has permissions, we have this table, and also we have these two as model has roles and role has permissions table. So we will see these tables in the detail. Now next we have the column names. So this will use pivot table for managing the relation, all right? So that I will show you. Further, we have this team foreign key register permission check method, okay? And here this supports the feature of managing the permission for teams as well. So currently by default, this is disabled. And next, we have this cache functionality, okay? By default, this will keep the cache for 24 hours. So this is all about this permission configuration. Here we don't have to do any customization until and unless we changed model here, okay? So I will come to this part later again when we will create a custom model. Now let's quickly jump to the database and migrations. Here we have a new migration file added by Laravel Spatie package. If I will show you, here in the single migration, this will create multiple tables. So firstly, we have this permissions table in which we have the fields like primary ID, name, guard name, timestamp. Next, we have this roles table in which we have the following fields, again primary ID, name, guard name, and internally this will create the pivot table. So for that, we have this model has permissions table. And next we have this model has roles. Again, we have this ID, roles, and this is the pivot permission. For that, we have the table as role has permissions. So here we have this migration down for dropping these all schemas. And we have these total 5 tables. Role has permissions, model has roles, model has permissions, roles and permissions. But before migrating these schemas, let's quickly understand about these tables. So firstly, I will talk about this roles table. So in this role table, we will define all the roles of our application. Just like admin, editor or super admin that we already saw in this flow. And these roles are basically a group of permissions and users can get access rights based on the role they have, okay? Next, we will talk about this permissions table. So in the permission table, we will define individual actions or privileges, just like we already saw in this flow. We will have create user, update user, delete user. These kind of actions will be stored in this permissions table. Further, we have model has roles table in which this table will link our users to the roles they have. So let's say if user John is an admin user and this table stores that connection. So whenever Laravel checks a user's role, this looks in this table model has roles. Next we have roles has permissions table. So this table links our users to the role they have. So the roles are powerful because they bundle multiple permissions together. This table connects roles with the permissions they grant. For example, the admin role might include edit user, delete user and access dashboard menu. these are the permissions, and user with the admin role automatically will inherit all these permissions. And lastly, we have model has permissions table. So sometimes we want to assign a permission directly to a user without giving them a full role. Okay. So this table will handle that. And for instance, we could give a junior editor user to edit post permission, okay, without making them a full editor. Now, how it works together? So when a user logs in, Laravel will check their roles and permissions, okay? And if any user has a role, just like super admin or admin, then Laravel will automatically knows all the permissions linked to that role. Because internally, Spatie created few relations between users, roles, and permissions table. And you can also give individual permissions directly to users by passing roles if needed. So this structure allows flexible access control where you can restrict or allow actions at both the role and individual level. Now let's quickly jump to the documentation again. And further we will have to run this migration, okay? So I will copy this migrate command and I will hit enter here. So I will type PHP artisan migrate, and this has executed this migration successfully. Now if we'll jump to the database. So inside database folder, we have database.sqlite, and here we have these all tables. We have roles. So we can see this flow. This role table has linked with role has permissions and model has roles. And further we have this permissions. So this permission table is linked with model has permissions and role has permissions. All right. Now in the next step, we will have to use this trait in the user model. So by using this has roles trait, Laravel automatically knows all the permissions linked to that authenticated user. So we will have to use this trait in user model. So firstly, I will jump to the app models. Here we have this user model. Inside this, we will have to use this trait here as use has roles. And we will have to import it here from this Spatie permissions traits. All right. Now in the next step, we will start creating the CRUD for modules. Okay. So here I want to set the permissions based on the modules that we already discussed here in this flow diagram. So firstly, we will create a CRUD for modules in which we will define the functional areas, which will be like exactly module. Just like we have users module, we have gallery management, and further we will have more modules like roles, permissions and all. And for that, I want to create a separate table in which I will store those modules name. And also that will be helpful for rendering the sidebar menus dynamically by using that table. So I will quickly jump to the terminal. And here I will create one Livewire component using PHP artisan Livewire make, and I will give a folder name just like modules. Now inside this, I will create listing component first. So which will be modules listing. And also I will create form component. So I will name it as module form. Okay. So these two Livewire components have been created. Now let's quickly jump to the code editor, and inside app Livewire, we have this modules folder in which we have this listing and module form component. Now firstly, we will have to render this listing component. So I will create one route in the web.php. So inside this, here I will create one route, okay, that will have get method. I will name it as modules, and this will call the listing component. But firstly, we will have to alias that component here because we already have one listing component imported from users, right? So I will create use app Livewire, we will have modules listing, and I will alias it as modules listing. I will copy this alias name and I will use it as : class, just like this. Let's add name as modules. This is done. Now I will link this menu in the sidebar component. So I will search for sidebar. So at the very top, after this dashboard, here I will add this module. So I will duplicate this nav menu item and I will add it here. Now I will change this to modules and this route will be modules. Okay. Modules. Let's verify this route. Yes, here we have this modules. Now I will jump to the application and here we have this modules. Okay. If we'll click on this, yeah, we have this blank component rendered. Now let's quickly design this table. So I will quickly replicate this layout from this users listing. Okay. So I will jump to the users app Livewire. Here we have this users module in which we have this listing component. All right. And every data is coming dynamically, means this table columns. Okay. So quickly I will copy it from here. I will jump to this modules listing and just before this render, I will paste those columns. Now related to this model class, we will have to create a model and migration for having this module name. Okay. So I will quickly jump to the terminal again and I will type PHP addition make model module and this will have migration as well. I will hit enter and yes, this model and migrations have been created. Now we will define some column name inside this modules table. So I will define string name. We will have this module name just like users module, gallery management, roles module, permission something. All right. And further I will store this slug of the same name. I will create description and I will set this to text. Now further I will add icon and routes which will be helpful to render these modules dynamically in this sidebar. Okay. So if you'll notice here, for rendering this sidebar menu, we have this icon, label and route action as well. So that when we will click on this route action, this will navigate to that route and it will load that component. So I want to set this dynamically. So for that, I will create a separate field just like string. And firstly, I will set it for icon in which we will set the icon name. And next I will set the route, which will be basically action. And also I will create one more field in order to set the permission name so that when we will implement roles and permissions based access, we will apply those permissions here on the sidebar menus as well. So for that, we should have one column to be stored as permission name, just like this. So I will set comment as permission for sidebar menu. Okay. Now respectively, let's add the fillable property in the module model. So inside app models, we have this module. Here I will set fillable property. Okay. In which we have name, slug, description. We set icon, route, and lastly we have permission. Okay. Now let's migrate this schema. So I will type PHP addition migrate And yes, this is done. Now let's go ahead with that listing component of modules. So here we have this listing component, and instead of this user model, I will call module model itself, and we will have to import it from app models module. Okay, this is done. Now in this listing, we have to change the column of this table. So we have the following fields like name, slug, description, icon, route, and permission. And among these all, I want to display a few columns. So instead of this name, I will keep it module name, and this will be bound with name field, this one. Okay. Next, I want to render the description. And for this, we have the field as description. So we will be binding this field from this. Okay. And instead of created at, I will change this to last updated at. And this will be connected from updated at column. Now in the action, we will have view, edit, and delete. Now here I will jump to this Livewire modules listing page. Currently this component view is empty. So I will copy the listing view from this users listing. I will copy this entire layout. That's why we made this form and listing reusable. And here next I will paste it inside this module listing view. Now I will quickly update the title, just like this is modules management, manage application modules from here. From here I will create module. So this will be add module. And for this button, we will have to dispatch a common event that we already created in order to open the model. Okay. So we have this open model event in which we are passing the model name that we want to open. So for this module form, I will change this to form name as module form model. Initially, this will have action type as create because this is add module button, right? And next from here, we were importing that module form. So we will have to change the form component name as module form. Here we have this module form created, right? This is. So let's copy this modules.module form. And here I will render that. Now next, let's jump to the browser. And if we'll click on modules, yes, we have this module components rendered with the following table fields, right? Now next we have to work on add module functionality. So when we'll click on add module, this is firing one event as open model. And we have to listen this open model event in this form component. So we'll jump to the class. Here we have this module form component class. And firstly, I will copy that snippet from user form. Inside this, we have these form fields array. Further, we have these all actions, just like this open model action. By using this, we were opening that model dynamically by passing the model name, right? Next, we have this save functionality so that when we'll submit the form, this will save the data into the database. So we have differentiated based on the ID. If we have the ID, then this will have update, else it will have save functionality. We have this reset form. And next we have this table action, meaning view, edit, and delete functionality of those table actions. Okay. So I will copy this entire snippet again from here. I will jump to this module form. Just before this render, I will paste it here. Now from here, firstly, I will change this model name so that by clicking on add module button, we will be able to open that model. So next we will have to create that model so that we will be able to open that here in this module form. So let's jump to this module form. Currently this module form is empty, right? So again, I will copy this form layout from this user form. I will copy this. I will jump to this module form. I will paste it here. Now inside this, we have this Flux model component, right? I will quickly update these things. Create module model. And next we have to provide this model name. So this model is being for module, right? I will give it as module form model. Next, I will update the title of this model heading, which is module detail. If it is view, then it will show module detail. If we have the ID, then it will update module, else it will show create module. In the description, we will have create a new module by filling up the form below. And here we have another common form component, which is reusable. From here, we are passing the props dynamically. So we are passing the event of saving form data, right? So I will change this to save module form, and rest everything will be same. Now we have to capture these two events, just like save module form, and also we have to update the module form name in this module form component class. So let's copy this name first, which is model name. I will jump to the module form, and here on open model action, we were opening that model. So we are getting this model name dynamically from this listing component. We have this module listing view. Here we are passing this module form, right? I will change that. Now also we have to change this table action. So for module, we will have modules table action. And I will jump to this module form component class. Firstly, I will update this save functionality. So this will be save module form. I will change this to module updated. This is module created. We have to find it from module. I will import this module. This will be module create, and we don't have to store the password from here. From here, this will close the module form. Next, we have this user table action. So we'll have to change this to modules table action. This is done. Now regarding these fields, I will come to this part later. Okay. So here we have added this open model. So when we'll click on open model button, this will fire one event, and that event will be captured here with the dynamic form name. So I will change this event name as open module model, and I will update that here in this listing. Okay, this will be open module model. Now I will jump to the module form again, and here we have to import on attribute so that we will be able to listen that Livewire event, and also this Flux. Okay, this is done, and we will have to change this model to module. And yes, we don't have any errors now. Now I will jump to the browser. I'll click on add module, and yes, we have this module form rendered. Now next we have to update the form fields here, so that by clicking on create, we will be able to submit this data to the database. So I will change the form fields as per the migration we have created here. So we have the name, slug description, icon, and route. Okay. So let's quickly update these form fields. So in the first field, we have this name. In the label, I will change this to module name. The placeholder will be enter module name. Regarding the validation, I will keep this to required and a string. And here I will set some placeholder, just like users permissions dashboard, okay, etc. Now next we need route. So I will change this to name as route. This label will be like redirect URL, which will be route basically. In the placeholder, I will set this to example just like users route, and I will remove these validations required string. Now further I will create one more input for icon. So this name will be icon. The label will be just like hero icon name, because in the Flux this is using hero icons, right? And here we can set the placeholder just like for the users module, we have the icon as users. So if we'll check out to the sidebar, here we have the icon as home, users, photo, just like this. So I will set this in the placeholder as module form, just like this. This will be required and a string. Now next we need description as well. So I will keep this description here, and rest I will remove other fields. These are not required. And we will have this submit button. So this is done. And here I will change this function name to save module. Next I will put dump and die form inputs here. Now I will jump to the browser. I'll click on add module. Yes, the form fields have been changed. I will try to click on create. Yes, the form validations have been triggered as per the defined validation rules here in the form fields. Next, I will try filling up the form. I will set module name as dashboard. This will be dashboard. Hero icon will be just like home. I will fill up some description and let's click on create. Yes, on create, we are getting the form data in that submit handler. So from here, we will be inserting this data to that module table. So by using this function, we have checked if we have the form opened in the edit mode, in that time, we will have the form data ID, else it will insert that. Okay. So let's remove this dump and die, and rest it will be handled automatically. But after saving this, we will have to refresh this listing form as well. Currently, we have not added that functionality here. So after this model close, I will dispatch one more event, just like dispatch refresh table. Okay. This is for refreshing the listing, and this action will be handled in that common table component. So I will jump to the Livewire common custom table, and inside this I will create one function just to refresh table, and here I will listen that event using on attribute on refresh table. Let's import this on attribute here, and inside this I will refresh this entire table component using dispatch $refresh. So this $refresh will refresh this Livewire component. Okay. This is done. Now I will jump to the browser again. I will click on add module, and I will quickly fill up this form just like users module. The route will be users. Hero icons will be like users. Menu for users module. I will click on create, and we missed that slug property, right? So this thrown error as the slug cannot be null. So here we will have to change that in the module form. In the form inputs, we are not getting that, right? So in this form inputs, I will append one more array just like slug, and this will be captured from name. So from form inputs, name, and I will generate it using str slug helper. Now let's import this str facades using illuminate support str. This is done. Now let's jump to the browser again, and let's create module. users, okay, users module. And this thrown one more error as permissions cannot be empty. Okay, because we are not filling up the permissions. So let's add one more field here in this form. After this description, I will add one more field, just like type. Name will be permission. This will be just like access users menu, just like this. All right. Placeholder, we have this, and if we'll verify the field, yes, we have this permission. Let's refresh. Yeah, this is working. Now let's fill up this form. Users permission for users sidebar menu. This permissions will be users. I will click on create, and yes, the module has been inserted into the modules table. And after inserting that, this table has been refreshed automatically. If we'll click on view, this said undefined array key route. So that we will have to handle it on that view action. So let's jump to the code editor again. And in this module form, here we have this table action. This is modules table action. We have to bind those fields in order to populate to the form, right? So from the module, we are getting the data just like module name. If we'll expand it, we have this module name, slug, description, icons, and these all. So we will have to bind these fields in order to populate to the form. So what I will do, I will pass it here, module. I will quickly update these variables. We need name. As per the form fields, we have route. This will be coming from route. We have this description, and further we have icon, right? Let's copy this icon, description, and lastly we will have permission. Okay, this is done. And from here we are opening this model, and we are receiving this model name dynamically. So that we have to check in that module listing component. So here we have to update this model name. So let's change this to module form model. Let's copy and update it here. Okay, this is done. Now let's quickly jump to the browser. And if we click on view, yes, this module data has been populated in the view mode. Similarly, if we click on edit, yes, again this has opened. From here we can change these things. I will try updating the description, menu, updated. Yes, this has updated and refreshed automatically here. This is done. So the module functionality is done. Now in the next step, we will implement the CRUD for permissions. So we will have to create the full CRUD for permissions, okay? And for that, again, we will follow the same steps. So firstly, I will do some changes in the migration of permissions and roles. I will add few more columns in that. So I will jump to the migrations, and firstly I will close these all files except this, okay? Close to the rights. And here in the database migrations, we have this migration, okay? So from here, I will start from permissions. After this name, I will add few more columns. So I will give a comment just like custom additional columns. And I want to add module here because the permissions will be based on module name, okay? That's why we created a full CRUD of that module, right? so that while creating the permission, we will choose the module name for that we want to create the permission. So it will be fully dynamic, right? So here I will specify the column name just like module. I will set this to nullable. Thereafter, I will create one field as label so that related to every permission, I want to keep stored value in the form of lowercase as slug format, but while displaying it, I will use that actual label. Okay. And also I will create description. So for that, I will keep text. This will be description. This is done. Now same thing I will add for roles table as well. So in the roles table, I will add two fields just like label and description. So just after this name, here I have added this custom columns. But again, this is optional. If you want, you can add it, else you can manage it from name field itself, because in the name itself, this will store the permission name. But I want to modify this so that it will be helpful for you. So later, if you need it, you can modify it according to your need. All right. Now this is done. Now rest, we don't have to update anything. So respective to this migration change, we have to re-execute this create permission table migration, right? So I will jump to the terminal again. And from here, I will roll back migration. So I will type PHP artisan migrate rollback, and I will specify a step just like 2, because we have 2 migrations executed. The last migration was for modules, and just before that we had the permission migration, right? So I will migrate till step 2, and yes, this is done. And now I will re-migrate it using PHP artisan migrate command. This is done. Now if we'll check out to the database. So inside database, in the permissions table, we have field like module, label and description, right? If we'll check out in the roles, yes, we have label and description added. Now respectively, we have to change the fillable property in its respective model. But if you notice, the Spatie does not reveal that model here in the models folder. So the role and permission model are kept internally in the library itself. And from there, we cannot modify it, right? So what we'll have to do, we will have to create our custom model, and from there, we will override the internal model. So again, I will jump to the terminal. I will clear it, and I will quickly create 2 models. So firstly, I will create role model using PHP artisan make model, and I will name it as role. I will hit enter, and yes, this model has been created. Now next, I will create one more for permission. Yes, now we have 2 models created, role and permission. So let's start adding the fillable property in the role model. So inside this, firstly, we will have to extend this model from Spatie. Currently, this is extending to base model class. Okay. So from here, we'll have to change this to Spatie model roles. So firstly, we'll have to import that as use role, and this will have imported from Spatie permission models role, and I will alias it as just like Spatie role, and here this will be extended from that Spatie role. This is done. Now next we'll add fillable property. So let's add the fillable property as per the migration we have updated in the roles table, right? If we'll check out in the role, we have filled just like name, label, description, and guard name, right? So let's add these fields. We have name, label, description, and guard name, right? This is done. Now similarly, we'll have to change this in the permission. So I will copy this same fillable property. I will navigate to the permission and here I will paste that. And again, we'll have to change this extent from that Spatie model. Okay. So we'll update it as use permission, and this will be imported from a Spatie model permission. Again, I will alias it as a Spatie permission. Now let's extend it here in this model. Let's save. And yes, this is done. Now here we have to add few more fields as per the permissions table. So we have module, label, and description. So after this name, we have module. So I will keep it at the top, just like module, name, label, description, and guard name. Now, respective to these newly created models, because from here we are overriding this to existing model, right? We have to update these models in the config of that permissions.php. So inside config, I will jump to the permission.php. So here we have to change the model as per the custom model which we have created. So for the permission, we have created the model as this custom permission, right? And here we extended this from a Spatie permission. So that we will have to update it here. So firstly, I will duplicate this line. I will comment this original one. And here I will change this path from app models permission. Now same thing, we will have to update it for role. I will duplicate this. I will comment, and here I will add it from app models role. Okay, that's it. So this is all about this permission configuration. Let's close this. This is not needed now. Now in the next step, we will create a CRUD for permissions. So firstly, we will have to create a few more components. So I will jump to the terminal. And here I will create Livewire component using PHP addition Livewire make. And this time I'm going to create component for permission. So this I will keep it inside permission folder. And inside this, again we'll create a listing component. Okay. So the listing component inside the permission folder has been created. Now next I will create permission form. Okay, this is done. Now I will jump to the code editor back. I will close other files. And here let's start designing that permission form. So I will jump to the app, Livewire, permissions. Here we have this listing component. Now again for this listing component, I will use that modules listing snippet, okay? So I will copy the entire snippets from here. I will jump to the permission listing, and just before this render, I will paste this. Now I will update these fields quickly. So inside these permissions, I want to display the permission label, okay? So we have the field as permission label. And this will be connected from label. If I will show you the fillable property inside permission model, here we have the module, name, label, description, and guard name. So respectively, I will be updating here in this listing. After the permission label, I will display the module. So I will add one more field here. Module. This will be type as field. Here I will specify one more field as subtype. And this I will set it as badge because I want to display one badge styling in the listing, okay? And regarding this field, we have the field like module, okay? But in the module, we are storing the slug, right? So I will change this to module first. Next we have this description, action, and in the action we have to change this model name to permission form model. I will update it here. This is done. Now related to this model class, we have to import permission model from app models. Okay, not from Spatie permission, because we have changed that model in the config of permission file. This is done. Now I will jump to this permission listing, and we have to update this listing view, so that I will copy it from module listing. I will copy and I will add it in permission. Here I will change this to permissions management, manage permission from here. This will be permission, and I will change this to open permission model, permission form model. Okay, this will be add permission. Now related to this common table action, we have to change this to permissions table action, and we have to change this form as permissions dot permission form. Now we have to design this permission form inside this permission form view. So again, that I will copy this layout from module form. I will paste it here, and I will change this model name to permission form model. This will be permission detail. I will copy it and quickly I will update it here. Update permission, create a new permission by filling up the form below, and this save handler will be save permission form. Rest everything is okay. Okay, this is done. Let's save it and let's jump to this listing. Here we have updated these things. Now let's add the functionality in the class. So I will jump to the permission listing. This is done. We have to work on permission form. So inside the permission form, again we have to add these property from this module form. So again I will copy these all till here, and I will paste it inside permission form itself. This is done. Now let's update the fields quickly here. So we'll start from form fields. So in the very first form field, I want to render one dropdown in which we will have list of modules that we have created using the module CRUD, right? So I will change this type to select. If I will show you the common form component, which is custom form, here we have handled this select case in which by specifying the type as select, this will render the dropdown. So I have specified type as select. Name, I will set this to module. Label will be just like module, and placeholder will be like select module. The validation will be required and string. Now in this select, we have to define the options in which we will have multiple options, right? But here I don't want to render the options static because we have a dynamic module CRUD, right? If I will show you, from here we can create module dynamically. So based on the created module, we have to render those in the module options. So that I will show you here. Next, I will need input type for permission name, right? So I will change this name to permission label, and this label will be just like permission label. Next, in the placeholder, I will change this to permission label, And just like example, create user. This will be permission name. The validation will be like required and a string. Further, I will need text area for description. That's all only. And let's remove this. So in the permission form, I need 3 fields only. This will be for dropdown. This is for input for permission name, and this is description. Now here we have to import this own attribute. Now related to this event name, we have changed this to open permission model. Let's import this Flux component again. Next, we have to change this save module form to save permission form. And here, instead of module, we have to import permission model. So firstly, I will update this function as save permission, and this model will be permission from app models. This will be permission. Okay. And let's keep it camel case. Okay, this is done. I will change this to permission updated successfully. And here let's import this str from eliminate support str, and this will be permission create. Permission created successfully. Module form model, I will change this to permission form model, and this is all about this. Here we have to change this to permissions table action. Instead of module, let's import permission find. Okay, and I will come to this part later. And based on the form fields, we have to render module label and description. So we have module. I will change this to module first. Further, we have label and description. This is done. Now we have to create one route in order to render this listing component of this permission. So I will jump to the routes web.php file, and just below this module, I will create one more route, and I will change the endpoint as permissions. And here we have to import the component. So I will duplicate this line, and here instead of app Livewire modules, this will be imported from permission listing, and I will change this alias as permissions listing. I will copy this, I will paste it here, and I will change this name as permissions. Okay, I will copy this permissions, and I will jump to the sidebar again. And here we have to add that. But instead of adding those manually, I will insert those modules name into the database directly, and from there I will render it here. Okay. So firstly, I will create a few modules here, just like dashboard. So I will quickly make some entry, just like dashboard. Redirect URL will be dashboard itself. Icon will be home. This is dashboard module. And in the permission, I will set this to as access dash, and related to this permission field, we have to store this in the permissions table itself. If I will jump to the module form, I will search for module form. Here we stored all the values in the module table itself, right? So after inserting the module, we'll have to store the permission into the permission table. So firstly, I'll change this variable to module here and here. Okay. If module is there, then I will import permission table, because for the dashboard module, I want to create a few permissions by default so that the dashboard menus will be visible. Okay. So inside the permission, we have the field just like module, name, label, and description. So we'll have to insert these all values from here. And in this module, we'll have to get the value from this module slug, which will be returned from that variable as module slug. Next, we have this name of that permission. So this name, I will get it from form input. Okay. So I will capture from form inputs. And there we have field just like permission. But in the name field, I will store that slug. Okay. And in the label, I will store the name. Now regarding this permission description, here we don't have any field defined in the form. Okay. So that we will have to generate it here, just like permission to access. And here I will concat module name, just like module name sidebar menu, just like this. Okay, this is done. Now let's save it and let's navigate to the browser. Let's refresh once and let's create a new module from here. So this is for dashboard. This will be redirected on dashboard. Hero icons will be home, module, and the permission will be access dashboard menu. I will click on create, and yes, this has been saved. Now if we'll check out to the database, inside permissions table, yes, we have one entry as dashboard. This is name, module, and we have this label, description. That's all. If we'll check out to the modules table, yes. Now respectively, we'll add some more entry here. So I'll click on add module. And next I will create for modules itself. Here we have this modules, right? And this will be redirected on modules. Related to this icon, as of now, I will set this to home itself. This is modules management mode. And related to the permission, I will set this to access modules menu. Let's insert it. I will add one more. This will be going for permissions. Redirect URL will be permissions. And here the hero icon will be just like sealed check, that we can check it in hero icons. Okay. And in the description, I will add permissions management module access permissions menu. Let's insert it. And next I will add for roles as well. Roles. This will be redirected on roles. And for the hero icon, I will set as sealed exclamation. Short description. This is roles management module. And in the permissions, I will set it as access permissions menu. This will be roles menu actually. Let's click on create. Yes, so this has been added. Next we will add for this users management. So I will create one more module as users. This will be redirected on users. Icon will be users. And this is users management module. And in the permission, I will set access users menu. Okay, this is done. And lastly, I will add for gallery management so that we will have these all sidebar menus dynamic. Let's add as gallery management. This will be redirected on gallery. We have the route as gallery. Hero icon will be just like photo. Gallery module access gallery management menu. Yeah, this is done. If we'll click on view, yes, this has rendered. On edit, yeah, this has rendered. We can update. Yes, this is working. Now we have to render these all menus dynamically here in the sidebar, so that every time we won't have to add newly created menu here. Those will be coming dynamically from the database itself. So I will jump to the sidebar, and here this sidebar is a blade view, not a Livewire component. Okay. So here we have to fire the model query in order to fetch all the modules. So what I'll do, I will open one PHP syntax and I will import app models module. Okay. And then I will apply just like order by ID. By default, it will be in ascending and I will get it. I will capture the result in a variable as modules. And here I will copy these variables, and just before these all navigation menus, I will iterate those using for each modules as module, and I will copy one of the menu here and I will keep it inside this for each. That's all. Rest I will remove these all. These are not needed. Okay. Now here we'll have to apply this value dynamic. So this icon, it will be coming from module icon. Next we have this href. So this route will be like, here we have to pass dynamic route. It's like module route. Now in the current request, we have to check if route is module route. Then this will be rendered. And let's update this label dynamic here, module name. That's all. Let's navigate to the browser. And this said route roles not defined because in the web.php file, we have not defined any route for roles. So let's add one condition here. Until and unless that route exists in the system, then only this will render that menu here. So inside this for each, again I will open one PHP syntax and I will use route facade. Route has this module route. This will return true or false. I will assign this result in a variable as has route. And here I will check if has route, then only this will render this menu. Now if we'll check, yes. So here every menus are rendered dynamically. All right. Now related to gallery management, we cannot see that. So maybe there are some mismatch with the route name. For the gallery, we have the route name as galleries. And here we have this redirect URL as gallery. So let's change this to galleries, and if we'll save, if we'll refresh, yes, this gallery management is visible now. Now let's proceed for this permissions. This said permissions.permission form does not exist. So let's navigate to this permission listing blade. Here we have the folder as permission. Okay, let's save and let's check. Yes, this has been rendered now. So by default, we have all the permissions rendered here, just like we have created based on the added modules, right? And here we have the module, but this is showing slug here. So we have to render the actual module name, right? So for that, I will create one relation in the permission. So I will jump to the permission model. And after this fillable property, I will create one relation as public function, just like module relation. And in this function, I will return as one relation, which will be connected from permission module name to parent module table. So we have this model as module class, and I will connect it with slug. And in the permission, we have the field as module, which is foreign field. Now, in order to render the name here, we have to create one accessor, because this listing is coming from permissions table, right? But this module has a different table in which we have stored the name. So in this dynamic table, if I will show you the index means listing component, here we are rendering all the data from permission table by mapping the column name only, just like this. Okay. But this column name is not matching from that foreign table. So for that, we will have to create one accessor, and by using that property, we will bind it here. So again, I will jump to the permission model. And after this relation, I will create one accessor, just like public function get module name attribute. Now inside this, I will get the name using this relation. So I will call this module relation, and from here I will return the name. If it is there, then okay, else it will return null. Now based on this attribute, we can bind this property here in this listing. So we will have the module name, because we have defined get module name attribute, right? Now if we'll navigate to the browser, and yes, this has fetched the name from there. Now we have added one subtype as badge, right? So based on that, I will add some property here in this TD, so that if it is type of badge, then this will render the badge component there. So for that, I will jump to the custom table component. So in the common custom table, for the type of field, because here in the data, the actual type is field, inside that we have added one subtype as badge. Here I will check one more condition. So firstly, I will open the PHP syntax, and I will get this value in a variable, just like value. Okay. And here I will use if condition, if is set this column subtype exist subtype, okay, and subtype is type of badge, so this will be column, subtype is badge, else, and here we'll have to add end if. Now in the else block, we will render this value directly. Now in this if condition, if it is type of badge, then I will render the badge component from Flux UI. So if we'll search for Flux UI, here we have this badge. If we'll scroll down, here we have this badge colors variant and solid variant. I will use this indigo one, this one. I will copy and I will paste it here. Now in this value, I will render that value. This is done. Now if we'll come to the browser and if we'll refresh this application, and yes, we have this badge rendered successfully. Now let's work on adding a new permission. If we'll click on add permission, yes, we have the form rendered successfully. But in this drop down, which is a module, which should come dynamically, we don't have any options rendered, right? So we will have to render the options dynamically based on these added modules. So these all modules will be rendered here in this permission, so that when we'll create a new permission, firstly we'll select for which module we are going to create a new permission. So let's jump to the code editor back, and inside the permission form, here we have this field type as select, and we have defined this options empty, right? And in this component, we have to fetch all the modules and we have to push this in these options. So let's scroll down. And here I will create mount function so that whenever this component will be mounted, we will have all the module from module. So I will use order by name and I will get this. I will capture in a variable as modules, and in order to push the modules name in this fields array, we have to iterate this form fields array, and we have to check from type select or even from name. So let's render that. Firstly, I will use for each $this form fields. Inside that we have fields array as $key, and this will be filled. But I want to modify the original array. That means in the original array, I want to push the options, right? So for that, I will be using the address of that variable using ampersand, so that we can modify the actual variable. Now I will check if field name is module, right? Here we have this field name as module. Then I will render the options inside that. So what I will do, I will assign options by plucking out from these modules. So I will write modules pluck, and from that model I will bind name and slug, and I will convert to array just like this. Now I will put dump and die here, $this form fields, and if we'll check out, yes, here in this first drop down type of select, we have options 6. This is slug, this is label, right? This is done. Now if we'll remove dump and die, and if we'll check out to the form, if we'll click on add permission, and inside this drop down, yes, we have all these options rendered. Now we have to work on submit handler. Okay. So from here, when we'll submit this form, this should insert permissions. Okay. So firstly, let's check out this save function. Again, I will close others file and I will search for permission form Livewire component. Inside this, we have this save permission function. From here, we will have to store the permission. So firstly, I will just put dump and die in order to see what we are getting from form inputs. I will fill up the form and I will submit it. So for permission label, this will be just like create gallery. Okay, I will submit it. And we are getting module, label and description. So in the label, we are getting that permission name. So while generating this slug, we have to generate it from label. This is done. Now let's remove this dump and die and let's insert this permission. So firstly, I'll create it for gallery management. This will be just like add gallery, permission to add a new gallery image. I will click on create and this said undefined array key name. Okay. So we will have to update this field here. Instead of slug, this will be name. Okay. Because in the permission table, we have the fields like module, name, label, description, and guard name. So the slug will be stored in the name and the label will be stored in the name itself. That's all. Let's add one more time. Add gallery. Permission to add a new gallery image. Let's click on create and yes, a new permission has been created for this add gallery. This is done. Now if we'll click on view, yes, in the view mode, this has been opened. In edit, yeah, this has been opened. Now let's add one more permission and this time I will add it for modules. So this will be like add module, permission to add a new module. Let's click on create and yes, this has been saved. So the permissions CRUD is done. Okay. Now next we will be creating the roles CRUD. So I will jump to the terminal back and I will create two more components for roles. So this will be added in the roles or role folder that you want to keep. Role.role form and one more for listing. Now let's jump to the code editor and let's start designing this form. So firstly, I will jump to the Livewire role listing. And again, I will design this same layout by copying the layout from permissions. Okay. So I will copy these all snippets from here. I will navigate to the role listing and I will paste it here. From here, we have to call role model from app models. Now in this listing, we have to update the columns based on the roles table. So in the role model, we have the fields like name, label, description, right? So I will add these fields here in this listing. Firstly, I will change this to role label. This will be description, last updated at, okay. And here I will change this to role form model. That's all. Let's navigate to this role listing. And here we will have to paste that layout of table. So let's copy it from listing. And I will add it here in this role listing. I will update the title just like roles management. Manage roles from here, or we can change this to user roles from here. This is add role, open role model, role form model, add role, and this is form component, right? So we have to change this from role.role form. So inside role, we have this role form and this action will be roles table action. That's all. Now let's jump to the classes. So inside role listing, this is done. We have to work on role form. So for this role form, I will copy the layout from permission form. I will copy these all snippet from here till here, okay? And I will paste it inside this role form just above this render function. Now let's start updating this from form fields. So in the first field, I will keep the input just like role name, okay? This will be role label basically, in which we can have role just like super admin, admin just like, or user, etc. This will be required in the string, and I will remove this select. This is not needed. Next, I will keep text area for role description. Now against the roles, we need permissions, because as we discussed in the beginning, here these roles will have the group of permissions. So inside the role, when we will create any role, we will have to assign the permissions directly to that role. So for that, we will have to render the permissions here. So again, I will create one more field in the form of checkboxes, because we will have more than one permissions to be assigned for the role. So there will be multiple selections, right? So better to create checkbox. If you want, you can create and use multi-select something, okay? So I will change this type to something just like multi-checkbox. This will have name just like permissions. In the label, I will change this to permissions. And in the placeholder, I will add one description kind of text, because in the checkbox, usually we won't have the placeholder. So that I will use for description purpose only. Select the permissions to be assigned to this role. And this is fine, okay? This will have array because we will have multiple checkbox, right? So anyhow, when we will select the output, the form input will be coming in the form of array. This is done. Now next, here we have to import this own attribute from Livewire, and this event name will be open role model. Let's import Flux, save role form, update this function name to save role. In this update functionality, we will have to call role model. I will update these variables quickly. Role, and this message will be role updated successfully. Role create, and here we don't have slug field in the role. If I will show you the role model, here we have the name, label, and description, right? So respectively, we'll have to insert those value. Here we'll have to change this to role created successfully, and this will be role form model. Rest everything will be okay. Here we will have to change this to role find. This action will be roles table action, and here we have to change the field just like name. We will have role name, right? And we'll update this variable to role. So we'll have role ID, role name, role label, role description, and one more as permissions. So firstly, we will have to extract that permission. I will keep it as empty array as of now. Firstly, we'll have to insert those values into the database. Then we'll come to this part later. Now let's check this save functionality here. So while saving the role, firstly, we have to capture the form inputs in the form of array for the permissions, right? Now here we have specified one type as multi-checkbox, right? So for that, we'll have to handle it in the custom form component. So I will jump to the Livewire common custom form component. Here we don't have any checkbox related condition. If we'll show you, we have this input, select, text area, image or file. That's all, right? So here at the beginning, I will add one more case for that multi checkbox. Okay. And for this checkbox, I will jump to the Flux component again. And from here, I will use checkbox. Okay. And I need group checkbox something so that we will have module name, because we can have multiple permissions inside a single module, so that it will be easier to identify for which module this permission is. Okay. So I will be using field set here, just like this. So in the field set, we will have this heading, description, and multiple checkboxes just like that. So I will copy this Flux field set legend description. So better to copy all these. I will paste it here. Okay. This is for multi checkbox. Now here we have to render the dynamic permissions. But for that, firstly we will have to create and map the permissions data in this table. So I will jump to that role form component, and here we have to push the multiple checkbox in the form of array, right? So again I will create mount method. So better here only I will create just like mount, and inside this mount function I will fetch permission from app models, right? Order by name, and I will get all the permissions. I will capture this in a variable as permissions. I will put dump ndi permissions, and if I will show you, but before that we will have to create one route so that the role menu will be visible in the sidebar, because we added the condition like if we will have route, then only that will be visible in the sidebar. So we have already created the role listing component, right? We have to render it here in the route. So I will create one more route here, just like roles, and we will have to import that component from role listing as roles listing. I will render the Livewire component here. Let's change this name to roles. And if we'll jump to the browser, yes, we have this roles menu visible. If we'll click on this, yeah, we can see that dump here. We are getting all the permissions. If we'll expand this array, we have all the permissions coming from the database, just like access, dashboard menu. Next we have gallery management. Okay. So we have to plug the name and label again, just like we already did it in the permissions, right? So I will jump to the form, and here again we'll have to iterate the form fields. So we have the array like form fields. Inside that we have the fields array, and we have to check type as multi checkbox, and if name is permissions, then we have to create one options here. All right. So I will scroll down. Here we have this mount function, right? Again, I will use for each $this form fields as, and again I will be using ampersand for address so that we can directly modify that array option. Now I will check if field type is multi checkbox and that field name is permissions, right? If it is permissions, then we have to group the permissions based on the key. So here I will be using permissions group by, and I will create one function callback just like permissions. And from here I will return the permissions by checking that module name. So we have the relation as module relation, right? So that I will pass it here as with module relation so that it will be loaded up front. And from this module relation, we will have the field like name. By default, it will be empty. That's all. Let's close this. And this will return the value by grouping it. So I will store in a variable as grouped permissions, just like that. And if I will put dump and I grouped permissions, if we'll check out, okay, here we have typo mistake with, if we'll expand it, here we are getting the permissions by grouping the name. So we have this dashboard module. Inside that we have one permission as access dashboard menu. Same thing for gallery management. We have two permissions. Next we have for more modules. Inside modules we have two permissions. So we have grouped all the permissions based on the module name. Now we have to extract the value just like name and label from this array, right? So again, we have to iterate this loop as for each grouped permission as module key, just like this, or we can keep module name itself because that is coming as a module name, and this will be like permission. Inside this, we have to push the permission in one option of this field array, this one. Okay, so I will be using field, and inside this I will create one options, okay, array, and also we have to separate it based on the module name. There we'll have to get permissions, and I will plug it using plug, and we have label and name. Let's convert this to array again. This is done. Field options, and let's define this variable here, field options empty, just like this. Now if I'll put dump and I $this form fields array, right? And if we'll check out the result, and yes, we have this array. If we'll check out, yes, here for the multi checkbox, we have the options grouped by permissions. So in the dashboard, we have one key and value array. Gallery, we have two. Modules, we have two, just like that. Okay. So when we will add more permissions, this will be rendered here automatically. Now let's render these permissions in the form. So I will remove this and I will jump to this custom form again. Here we will have to render the data. So in the field, we will be getting the data in the options array, right? So here we will change this to field. This will be label, and this will be placeholder. We have created this placeholder here. Just if I'll show you this one, placeholder and label. This will be displayed here. Now next, here we have to render the checkboxes. So what I will do, here I will create for each loop, just like field, and inside the field we have the options array. This will be as key because we have the module as key, and this will be value as options. Now inside this, we will have to iterate one more loop because when we saw the result, we had grouped by key and there we had multiple permissions. So again, I will use for each options as option or better we will be using option as $value, and this will be label, because in the checkbox we will have to render the value and options both, right? And I will copy this checkbox from here. I will keep it inside this. Now I will remove these are not required. Now here we have to render the label, and here we will have this value. Let's remove this checked property, and here we'll apply this disabled property as well if it is view mode. And next we will have to design the role form model. So inside the role form, let's jump to that view, and here we will have to render that form component. So I will copy that layout from permissions, permission form. I will copy this entire layout and I will paste it here. Now this will be role model, okay? Permission detail, this will be role detail, update role, this will be create role, create a new role by filling up the form, and here save role form. That's it. Now let's jump to the browser, and if we'll click on add role, yes, this form has been rendered, and here we have all these permissions rendered dynamically. Okay, but let's style it by grouping it so that we will render the permissions based on the module name. So I will jump to the code editor, and here let me dock this sidebar again. In this custom form blade, firstly I will create one div here as space y of 6, so that between every modules there will have enough spaces. And let's close this div. Now here in this for each loop, I will create one label using Flux label, and I will give some classes like font semi bold, text gray just like 800, and padding bottom of 3 something. Okay, and here in between this Flux label I will render this module key. Now if we'll check out, we have this module name, and further we have that permission. This is module name, this is permission, just like that. But I want to display these permissions in the grid format, and also I want to increase this width of this model. So let's jump to that role form. Yeah, here we have this width property. Let's change this to max width as 4 axle and width to full. Now if we'll save and come back to the browser, if we'll check out, yes, this width has been increased. Now next I will change this permission in the grid layout so that in every row we will have 3 or 4 permissions, right? So let's update that in the custom form itself here. So just before this for each loop, I will create grid layout using Tailwind CSS. This will be grid columns just like 2, and for medium I will set grid columns 4 with a gap of 2. Okay, just like this. And after this end for each, let's close this div. Now if we'll check out, yes, this is visible in 2 columns layout. If you want, you can increase this width by changing this MD grid columns to 3, just like this. And yes, this is visible properly here. Now let's set some padding from left side so that this will have some left margin. So here I will set padding left as 5, and yes, this is aligned now. Now we have to bind the property which will be for capturing the data of selected checkbox. So for that, we will have to use this wire model.live attribute. So I'll copy it and here I will apply it. Now this value will be captured in the form of array, right? So for that, we will have to make it unique value. So after this, I will concat this module name as well, so that the value will be captured in the form of array by grouping the module, and also this will be unique based on the captured value, just like this. This is done. Now let's navigate to the form. This is role form, and on submit handler, here we already added dump and die. So let's check out the value by submitting this form. So this role will be just like super admin. I'm just filling up quickly. I will select some of the checkbox. I'll click on create, and this is not submitting. So let's check out the submit handler. Save role form. Okay, this is not coming inside this. So I will jump to this role form, and here we have this save role form, right? This is done. Now let's jump to this custom form itself. So there we can check in the custom form. Here we have this mount. Okay. So based on the multi checkbox, we will have to update the initialize property for that form fields. Okay. Currently we have set for normal input, select, and for file or image for handling that differently. So inside this else block, I will add one if condition. If field type is multi checkbox. Okay, this is multi checkbox. Let's verify it from here. Yes, this is multi checkbox. If it is there, then here we have to iterate those values, because the multi checkbox value will be coming in the form of array. So we have to iterate those options first. For each field options, and we have to initialize it with empty array. If it is there, then okay, else it will be empty array as module, and this will be options. Now inside this, we have to iterate one more loop for extracting the options. So we'll get the options as key, and we will have label, or simply we can change this to value or label, just like this. Now we'll check if $this form field data, and here we will pass field name if it is there, and also we have to pass this module key and the value, right? So this value will be $value. If it is there, then okay, else by default it will be false, just like this. So this will be captured as selected checkbox, and that will be helpful for edit. Now I will check if it is checked only, then I will set this in a new array. So just above this for each loop, I will define one checked value something array. Okay, and I will assign the value as checked values, in which we have to pass this module and this value, and it will be true. Okay, this is done. Now we have to set this in the form data as well. So after this for each loop, I will use form data, and we have to pass this field name, and this value will be coming from this checked values. Now for the else part, we will keep this existing functionality. Now if you scroll down, and here in the handle submit, I will put dump and die form data. Now let's navigate to the browser. And we have one issue as cannot access offset type on line number 51. So let's check that here. So this will be inside this field array. Okay, so we will have to close it outside this key. This is done. Now if we'll check out, yes. Now let's try to submit this form. So I will select this super admin test and I will select any of these checkbox. I will click on create and yes, now we are able to see the permissions array. If we'll expand this array, we have the selected checkbox group as dashboard in which we have one selected checkbox. This is the key and this value is true. That means that checkbox is selected. Next, we have this gallery management, modules. Okay, if we'll select more checkboxes, so in the gallery, I will select these two. In the modules, I have selected these two, right? If we'll submit now, we have total 3 groups selected. Now in the gallery management, we have 2 checkboxes selected, meaning 2 permissions. Same for modules, we have 2 permissions selected. So yes, we are getting the value properly here. Now let's remove this dump and die from this custom form and let's capture this data in this role form submit handler here. Let's try to submit it again. And yes, here also we are getting the values. Now we have to store this value into the database. So in order to store the permissions, we have to store the role first and then to that role we will sync the permission. So for that, let's jump to the documentation again of Spatie. And here, if we'll scroll to top, we have this using permissions via roles. If we'll click on this, if we'll scroll down, here we have sync roles and further we will have this assigning permissions to roles. So for assigning the permissions, we have these all functions as give permission to. This is for checking the permission if has permission, revoke permission. This is for sync permissions. So in the sync permissions, we can set multiple permissions and every time this will revoke the old one and it will assign the new permissions. But in other functions, just like if you use give permission to, every time it will create a new permission to that role. So instead of giving and removing permission, we can use sync permissions function directly so that it will revoke the existing permission and every time it will create new permission based on selected values. So we will be using this sync permissions function after inserting the role. So firstly, let's insert the role here. So what I will do here, we have to map one data. So in this form inputs, we are getting label, right? And that we will have to assign it in a new key as name. So if we'll check out role model, we have the field as name. So in the name, we have to store the value in the lowercase, which will be in the slug format. And in the label, we will have to store the original label that it will be coming from the form itself. Okay, so let's proceed for that. I will create a new key inside this form inputs array as name. And this will be captured from str slug form inputs label. Just like this. Let's import it again. So this is done. This will create the role. And after creating the role, let's capture this in a variable as role. And after creating the role, we will have to sync the permissions here. So for syncing the permissions, I will create it at common so that for update and create for both, it will be synced automatically. So I will call this function as role sync permissions and I will paste it here. But for syncing the permissions, we need permissions in this simple array format, right? But in our case, we are getting the form submitted data in the group of array. So we will have to map it before syncing this to the permissions. So what I will do, I will create a separate function here as private function sync role permissions. And here I will call this function inside this, okay? And we will have to capture the role and permissions means form input permissions. I will copy this function. I will call it here as $this sync role permissions. And we have to pass this role here. So I will check one condition. If we have role, then only this will sync that permission. Now in this second parameter, we have to pass form inputs and we will have the permissions key just like this. Now here we have to map the data of that permissions. So I will put dump and I permissions. And firstly, I will convert that array in the form of collection in order to simplify that. So what I will do, I will use collect function and inside this I will pass that permissions. Okay. And then I will map and I will extract the key just like module permission. And further, I will filter it using array filter function. And inside this, I will pass this module permissions array. Okay. And here I will get the key because if you have noticed in the grouped checkbox, we were getting the key and the value as true and false. So we have to get the key. So I will use array keys function here. We have applied filter here so that it will return the true value only. That means it won't return for empty values. Now here I will use flatten function so that if we have nested array, it will make all the arrays together because while inserting this into the permissions, we need simplified array without any hierarchy, right? So this will flatten that. And let's convert this to array using toArray function. Now let's capture this value as flatten permissions. And I will put dump and I flatten permissions. This is done. Now if we'll check out to the browser and if we'll try submitting the form again in order to check. Okay, I will select these 3 permissions. This is super admin, right? I will click on create and yes, we are getting this simplified array of selected permissions. We have these 3 selected permissions. Now we can pass this array directly here in the sync permissions function as flattened permissions, so that this will sync the permissions to the permissions table with this created role. That's all. Now let's jump to the browser and that was created, okay, because we have created the user and then lastly we synced this permission. So better I will click on edit and on edit we have to store the permissions again. I will click on update. And yes, the permission has been synced. Now if we'll navigate to the database in order to check. In the permissions table, yes, we have these permissions added now as add module, add gallery, because these access permissions were given by default while creating the modules, right? And if we'll check out to the role has permissions, yes, these permissions have been synced to that role. Here we have these 4 permissions added, right? Add gallery, add module, access gallery, and access dashboard. So this is done. Now let's work on the view and edit functionality so that when we'll click on view, those given permissions should be checked here. Same thing for edit. So we will have to fetch the permissions here in this role form itself. On edit, here we set this to empty, right? So that we will get it inside role itself, because internally this is maintaining one relation. So if I'll put dump and die role permissions, and if we'll click on view, yeah, for this role there are total 4 permissions set. So again we will have to iterate these permissions in order to render on the checkboxes. So what I will do, I will create one for each loop again. For each this role permissions as permission, and from this permission I will extract the module. Okay, so I will write permission module relation, because we have one relation, right? And from that relation I will extract the module name, just like this. This is module. If we have module, then we have to form one more array in the same format, just like we bound here in the form data, because here we bound this property wire model.live in the key of form data.name.module.value, right? So anyhow we grouped that based on the module. So in the same way, for populating that value, we will have to make that array here in this form. So we have checked if we have the module, then we have to push one new array. So better I will define one array here, just like grouped permissions with empty array, and I will push grouped permissions, and I will pass this module, and further I will get this permission name here. If it is there, then it will be true. All right. And here I will check in view and edit. We have this role data. Now if we'll put dump and die grouped permissions here, if we'll click on view, yes, we are getting the data in the same format now. Now let's pass this data here in this empty array. Now let's navigate to the browser and let's click on view. The given permissions checkbox have been selected here, and these all are disabled in the view mode. Now if we'll click on edit, yes, on edit as well, these all are selected. Now let's try updating. So I will give all these permissions. I will click on update, and yes, the permissions has been updated. Now if we'll click on view, yes, on view, all the fields have been updated. On edit, yes, this is working properly. So the roles and permissions functionality are done. Now we have to work on user functionality, so that when we will create or update any user, we will have the option to set the role. So just now we have finished this roles functionality, right? So we will list out these all roles while creating and updating the user form. So in this user form, here I will add one more field, all right? And in that we will have the option to select the role. So let's update this form quickly. I will search for user form. This is our user form. And here, just after this nationality, I will duplicate this drop down and I will keep it for roles. This will be role, and this placeholder will be just like select role. and I have defined this empty options here for this. Now again we have to fetch all the roles dynamically and we have to set to these options. So for that, let's create mount function again, just like this. And in this mount function, again we have to iterate for each $this form fields, in which we have this fields as key, and again I will use value of that field using $field. If we have this field name as role, all right, we have this role here. If it is role, then we have to fetch all the roles. So I will use role model order by name, and I will assign this in a variable as roles. All right. Now in the field options, I will get this roles and I will plug label and name, and I will convert this to array. This is done. Now if we'll check out to the browser, if we'll click on add user, in this drop down, yes, we have one role as super admin. Same thing if we'll click on edit. On edit, this said undefined array key, because on edit part, we will have to set that key here. This is user table action. Here we have to get one more key as role, and we have to get it from user role. So internally, Spatie creates one relation between user table and roles table. So we have to plug the roles by using name, and I will use first function. If it is there, then okay, else it will be empty. Now we have this role key available. So when we'll click on view or edit, yes, it won't throw any error. Now let's create some more roles. I will add one more role as admin user role, and I will give these permissions only. I will click on create, and yes, the admin role has been created. Now let's navigate to the users. Now let's edit this user first, and I will set this role to super admin. I will click on update, and also we have to fill up the phone number and nationality. Okay, let's click on update, and yes, this has been updated. If we'll check out, so we will have to sync this role with this user, and for that we have one more function provided by Spatie. So if we'll scroll to top, here we have this sync roles function. So this roles will be assigning to the user. Okay, so we will be using this sync roles function, and there we will have to pass this role. So let's jump to the code editor back, and here after update or create, I will call that function. So I will use if we have form inputs role and also the user, then we have to sync the user with that role, and this role is coming from form input role. This is syncing role to the user. Now if we'll check out to the browser, and if we'll try to update this user again, I will select super admin. Let's click on update. Yes, this is updated now. If we'll check in the view mode, yes, for this user, we have the role as super admin. If we'll click on edit, yes, this has rendered as super admin. So this is working. Now let's create one more user. I will give it as admin@test.com, phone number, admin user. I will set this nationality and I will set this role to admin itself. I will click on create, and yes, this has been created. But here we have not fired up that refresh table event. So we will have to refresh it manually. Okay, this has been created. Now let's jump to that role form. I guess here we have called that dispatch event, right? So we will have to call it here after closing this model. Now if we'll check out in the view mode of this user, we have the role as admin and nationality has been saved. So this role and permission is working. Okay. Now we have to work on the permission based access. Okay. So we have created a few permissions. Then this permission has been assigned to the role. And here in the roles, I will display the permissions as well, so that we will be getting here for which role, which permissions have been given. So I will add one more field here as permissions. So in this role listing, even this description is not needed. I will change this to permission. But here again, this role is not directly linked with the permission. We have a separate table, right? So that we will have to fetch it using relation again. And for that, again, I will create one accessor in this role model. So I will jump to this role model. And after this fillable property, I will create one public property for accessor as get permission label attribute. And here I will return $this permissions, because from role internally the permissions have been linked and this relation is already created internally. So from here I will plug label and I will convert this to array, get permission label. Now here in this listing, I will change this to permission label. Now if we navigate to the browser, and we are getting the value in the form of array, right? So that we have to handle it in this listing itself. So I will jump to the custom table, and here I will add one more if condition. If this value is type of array, and this I will keep it in else. If it is type of array, then I will render this in a div, and I will set the class Flux wrap with gap 1, and in this I will iterate that array of values, because we will have more than one permissions for the role. So we have to render all the permissions here. So this will be rendered from value as, let's say, item. And in this for each, again I will use badge. Okay. And here we'll render that item. This is done. Now if we'll check out to the browser, and yes, all the permissions have been rendered here. Let's set some width to this permissions column. So I will jump to this listing, and from here I will pass class just like width 100. Okay. Or we can increase this to 150. Yes, this is perfect. So now against every role, we will be able to see given permissions. For admin, we have these, and for super admin, we have these all permissions. So this is done. Now we will be working on permissions based access. So we will start from this sidebar. Firstly, I will check in the sidebar menu if for the current logged in user, the permission has given, then only that user can access these sidebar menus. So I will jump to that sidebar view. And here we already rendered these modules which are for sidebar menus, right? Here we have to check one condition. So for checking that, Spatie provides view directive. So if we'll jump to the documentation again, and here if we'll scroll down, here we have this blade directive. So inside this, we have a couple of directives given by Spatie for checking the permission. So firstly, we have this can directive. So this can directive will take the permission key, meaning that name. So for the current user, if we have this permission, then this will allow to access that. But this will work with a single condition. But if you want to add more conditions alongside this permission check, then we will have to use if condition. So let's say for authenticated user, if we want to check if auth user can edit articles and some other condition, then we have to use that. Further, we can use guard name as well alongside this. And we have this other directive as well, which is for blade and roles. So let's start implementing by can directive. So using can directive, we will be checking that here. But what I want for super admin role, I don't want to check any permission because the super admin will be the superior user. So for super admin, we don't have to check any permission. By default, super admin can access all the modules and functionalities. So by default, I will check for auth user role. So here I will put dump and die auth user, and this provides one function as has role to check role type. And here we'll check as super admin. This will return true or false based on the condition. Yes, for the current logged in user, which is super admin, this has returned true. If I will change the value to admin, this has returned false. Now in other hand, if I will try opening this application in incognito window, and I will access that application, and I will log into that admin user that we have already created. Okay. But we have different password. I think we have set some random password while creating that user here, right? So as of now, I will remove this str random and I will set some static password just like this. And here I will keep this for update. So that firstly I will update that user from super admin, and we'll have to remove that dump and die from sidebar. I will navigate to this users menu, and for this admin user, simply I'll click on update. And yes, this should have updated that password. Now I will jump to that admin login window, and I will try to log in using that admin@test.com. I have entered the password as 12345678. I will click on login, and yes, I have logged in now. Now here I will enable that dump and die, and yes, this has returned true for this because this is admin user. Now in other hand, if we'll check for super admin, this has returned false. So this is working here. Now based on this, we will check condition. So what I will do, I will define one variable as can view just like this. Then I will use auth user can, and I will pass the permission name as access. Just like in the permissions table, we have the permission name just like access dashboard menu, access modules menu, access permissions menu. For accessing this sidebar menu, we need to check these permissions. Okay. So here I will append access, and then module name, we have this slug basically. So I will use dash module slug, and dash I will append menu. So this will return true or false dynamically for every menu. I will copy and I will add here. if can view. Okay. Now if we'll check out, if we'll refresh, for super admin, we have these all permissions. If we'll check out roles, we have these all permission, but for admin, we have only 3 permissions, right? So if we'll switch to the admin user, yeah, here we have only 2 menus visible, dashboard and gallery. So this is working. Now for super admin, I don't want to check for any permissions. So for that, I will add one more condition, just like I will wrap this condition in or condition if can view or if auth user has role as super admin, then this super admin can see all the sidebar menus. This is done. Now for super admin, for accessing the sidebar menu, we don't have to give any permission. Even if we'll deselect all the permissions, the super admin can see all the sidebar menus. So we have handled one condition here for this sidebar. Now next we have to handle for module wise. So the same can directive will be applied on every module, like on every action. So let's say if I want to restrict this admin user for creating the new user, then I will apply the condition here on add user. So we have this listing right here. And here we have this table actions, right? So these all columns are rendering dynamically. So from here, we have to filter out table columns by checking the permission. So that I will check it in mount function, just like this. So inside this mount function, I will map the table columns by converting this into the collection. So I will use this table columns and I will use map function. Okay. And we have column. Now inside this, I will use if this column type is action. Here we will use function. Okay. If column type is actions, because we have defined the column type as actions, right? Here. So if it is actions, then we have to check is set column have that array, which are actions array, this one. Now inside this, we have to map all the actions column. So again, I will use collect and column actions. Okay. Then I will filter out directly by checking the permission. So in the filter function, I will get the action. Okay. And inside this, firstly, if it is auth user super admin, then we don't have to check anything. So we'll check if auth user has role super admin or is set $action. We have to set the permission on this key. So firstly, I will copy this permission key and I will set this permission here on every action. So it will be just like view user. This is permission name. Same thing for edit and delete. This will be for edit, right? And for create, we will have to add in that form. So let's check this permission here. So it will restrict accessing the action columns. Okay. And here we have to check if we have permission to this auth user. If auth user can, and we will pass this action dynamically using action permission. Then I will convert this values And let's convert this to array. And here I will capture this response in the same variable as column, but this will be in actions column. And here let's terminate this and let's assign this data just like in the same column we have $this table columns. And from here we will have to return this column. Okay. And lastly, we will convert this entire collection to array. Now I will put dump_indi $this table columns. Now let's jump to the browser. And yes, here we have these array data. If we'll expand the actions, we have the actions empty because we don't have any permission to the admin user for accessing these all actions. Now in other hand, if we'll switch to the super admin, if we'll navigate to the users module, if we'll expand the fourth array, here we have all these actions as view, edit, and delete, right? So this is handled now. Let's remove this dump and if we'll check out, yes, for super admin, we have these all actions visible. Now if we'll check out to the admin, if we'll refresh, we don't have any actions visible. Now let's restrict for this add user button. So this add user button is visible in this listing form, which is user listing, right? Here we have this add user. So again, we'll check if condition, if auth user has role super admin. If you don't want to write this condition multiple times, you can create a helper function and by calling that you can reuse it. Okay. So that I'm not going to do it now because this video is going to be very lengthy. Okay. So now here I will check if it has super admin or we have the permission or auth user can add user. And for this, I'm expecting one permission as add user. Okay. If we have this, then this will be visible. Now let's come to the browser and for admin that add user button is not visible. Now if we'll switch to the super admin, yes, for super admin, it is still visible. Now if you want to set the permission to admin, then I will navigate to the roles. And here in edit role, firstly for the user module, I will create a new permission. So I will go back to the permissions. I will click on add permission. I will select the module as users and the permission will be add user because we have specified the key as add-user. So we have to create the permission in the same format. So this space will be replaced with dash and these uppercase values will be replaced in the lowercase because internally we have converted all the permissions labeled into the form of slug, right? So you have to create the role directly by passing the label here, permission to add a new user. Let's create it. Okay, this has been created. Now let's navigate to this roles and to the admin role, I will set add user permission. Okay, this has been added. Now I will switch to this admin user. If I will refresh now, yes, this add user button is visible for this. Same thing when you will add permission to view, edit and delete, this will enable these all actions. Okay, so I have shown you by adding in the table for restricting the action buttons and in the form also for creating a new user. So using this way, you can add for other modules as well. Now we will talk about one more important functionality, which is middleware. So let's say for this admin user, I have not given the permission to access permissions module, right? But still, if I will search for permissions route, I'm able to access that permissions module directly by using that route, right? And it should not happen. It should be restricted. If this admin user has not permission to access the permissions, then it should not access that permission route even. So for that, we will have to restrict it from route by applying the middleware. So let's jump to the official documentation again. Here, if we'll scroll down, we have this middleware. Let's scroll down, we have this package middleware, okay? So this provides three types of middleware as role-based middleware, permission-based middleware, and this is role or permission both. So we will have to register these three middlewares in our application. So let's jump to the code editor. Inside bootstrap app.php, here in the with middleware array, we have to register those middlewares. These are the alias, okay, role, permission, and roles or permission. Now we can apply these middlewares on the route directly. So let's jump to the route web.php, and here for applying the middleware on the route, this has given the option just like here we have the routes middleware, right? So on routes, we can apply middleware just by passing the alias as role or permission or even role or permission. And these are the permission name. So for the main route, I want to check for the sidebar permission, means sidebar menu permission. That means here for permissions route, I will apply middleware function. Let me dock this, and I want to check for permissions middleware, this one permission, okay? And for accessing the sidebar menu, we have permission name as access permission menu, this value, right? So I will apply this value in the route permission colon access permission menu. Let's verify it again. This is access permissions menu, okay? This should be permissions, right? Now I have applied the middleware on this permissions route. So if user has not permission to access this permissions menu, then even if you'll try to access it using route, it won't allow you. Let's check now. I will go back to the browser. I will switch to the admin user now, because for admin, we don't have the permission, and yes, it said user does not have the right permission. This has restricted to access this permissions route, right? Same thing we can apply for other routes as well. So let's copy this middleware, and here we will add for access modules menu, access roles menu, access gallery management menu. You will have to verify the permission name from here: access permissions, access modules, access dashboard, access gallery management menu. This is done. Same thing we can apply for dashboard as well. So here we already have the middleware function used. Inside that, I will pass this middleware name in comma separated format. And this will have access dashboard menu. This is done. Now if we'll jump to the browser, and if we'll redirect on dashboard, yes, dashboard was given, that's why it is visible. Further, we have this gallery management. So from route, if we'll check galleries, yes, this is visible. But now if we'll try to access roles, this said user does not have the right permission. All right, so this is working. Now Spatie provides few commands here. So if we'll check out, this is addition commands. So you can create the permission or role using command line itself by using the following commands. All right, Also, this provides the command to check all the permissions using this PHP addition permission show command. If we'll check out in the terminal, PHP addition permission, and if we'll hit enter, related to permission, this has given these all commands. This will reset the cache, this will create a permission, this will create a role, set up teams, and this is so. So if we'll run PHP addition show command, this will return all the permissions based on the role. These are the permissions and these are the role. Alright. So these all permissions are given to this role. This check mark defines that the permission is given. This dot means this permission is not given to this admin user. So by following these all practices, you can apply all the roles and permissions for other modules as well. Just like you can apply for permissions and even on all actions, just like on view, edit and delete. I have already shown you here for applying to the form and even for the table actions, just like this. This is for restricting from this table actions, right? Also, you can restrict it from drop-down values as well. So let's say admin user can create admin user only, not the super admin. So firstly, to the admin user, I will give the permission to access user module, right? Now I will jump to this admin user. And here I will go back to the dashboard. Here we have this users menu visible. So now let's say here in the listing, as an admin user, I'm able to see all types of user, even admin and super admin. And also, if we'll try to create user in this drop down, I'm able to see both admin and super admin. So here we can restrict this based on the current role. All right. So I will jump to the code editor, and in the form, we will have this user form. Here in the mount function, we are setting the role, right? So we have to restrict the role here. Currently we are fetching all the role and directly pushing to the options, right? So we have to check the auth user now. I will add one condition. If not auth user has role super admin, if it is not super admin, then we have to go through the permissions. So what I will do, here I will use auth user and I will plug the current role only. From roles, I will use plug function and I will keep name first. All right. And I will get this as current user role. So this is current user role, auth user roles, plug, and then I will apply this filter in this query as roles. So I will use where roles name is current user role. This is done. Let's save now and let's navigate to the browser. Now if we'll click on add user, if we'll check out this drop down, here we have admin user only, right? This has filtered the super admin for the admin. Now in the same way, if we'll check out for super admin, if we'll navigate to this users, if we'll click on add user, here in this drop down, we have both admin and super admin. So this is working. Next, if I want to filter the users listing based on the role only, that means if I'm admin, then I will be able to see admin and other users, not the super admin user. Okay. Similarly, if you'll have editor or some other user which will have less privileges, then those users will not be able to see the superior users, right? So that we have to handle it in this listing. So I will jump to this users listing. Here we have this users listing. And from here, I will pass one props to this users listing view. And from here, I will pass one props to this custom table component so that based on the given value, I can apply the filter. So firstly, let's define one filter variable here, filters. Let's initialize it with empty array. And here I will check for auth user. If auth user has a role admin. Here you have to make sure currently I am defining this condition based on the current role which we have defined here. We have two roles, admin and super admin. In case later you are creating editor, sub editor, SEO editor, something, then you will have to create the condition accordingly. So later you will have to add more conditions in switch case or either in multiple if else condition. Currently I have 2 users only, and for super admin, we don't have to check any condition, right? So for admin, I will check roles dot name because just Spatie created relation between users table and roles table internally. So based on that, we can apply this condition. Okay. And here I will pass this as a props to this view filters. Now in this users listing, I will capture this filters and here I will pass that as a props. Now let's capture this filters props in this custom table. So in this mount, after this action event, let's capture this filters array. Okay. And we will have to define it here as a public filters. And let's assign this to this public variable. Now here we have this row query, right? This is the actual model query that we are passing the model name here. I will have to check one condition. So what I will do, firstly we'll check if not empty filters, or directly we can apply for each because we have the array, right? So I will use filters as key and value, and here I will cut this line and I will keep it at this top, and I will use query function. This is model instance and we have applied this query function, and I will capture this in a variable as query. Now inside this for each function, and firstly in this return we have to apply this query order by, just like this, and this will be double colon. Okay. Now inside this for each, firstly I will check if we have any relations, just like we have passed here from this users listing, right? Roles.name. Then we have to break that using explode. So I will check if str contains this key, and in this key if we have dot, just like this, then I will explode it. So I will use explode and I will explode this key with dot, and I will capture this in a variable array, just like relation, and we will have this field. This is like array destructuring. Okay. And I will apply on that query where has, because we will have the relation, right? So we have extracted the relation, and in the relation we have to check query as query where field has this value. Else if it is normal filter, then it will be applied directly with key and value. Okay, this is done, and rest it will be continued with this paginate query. Now if we'll jump to the browser, and this is super admin. So for super admin, this can see all these users, right? Now I will jump to the admin user. And if I will refresh, yes, admin user can see admin user, not the super admin. So by using this way, you can handle other listing restriction based on the permission access. And that's it. We have built a full roles and permissions system in Laravel 12 using the Livewire Starter Kit. And we leveraged our reusable table and form components for rapid development. Now you can manage modules, permissions, roles, and users with full access control. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more Livewire and Laravel tutorials. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.